I still remember the first day of school like it was yesterday, though I wish I could forget it forever. The air was thick with that typical back-to-school buzz. Nervous whispers, lockers slamming, and the faint scent of fresh notebooks. But at West Hollow High, something about the school felt off. Not the usual new kid jitters. Something deeper. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. When I transferred here mid-semester, I thought it'd be just another place to bury myself in the usual routine. Classes, homework, and the occasional weekend escape. What I didn't know was that West Hollow High had a reputation, whispered about but never openly spoken. The school was said to be haunted. I laughed it off at first. Ghost stories were for little kids and horror movies. But the rumors got darker. Stories about students who disappeared without a trace. Others claimed they saw figures in the shadows, heard voices calling their names down empty hallways after the last bell. My curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the better of me. The first thing I noticed was the building itself. The bricks looked old and worn, with peeling paint and vines creeping up the walls. The main entrance groaned when I pushed it open, like the school itself was warning me to stay away. My locker was near the back hall on the second floor, a place that felt colder than the rest. Every time I passed by, the hairs on my neck stood on end. It was like someone or something was watching. On my first night, I stayed late for a club meeting in the library. As the clock ticked past 9, the fluorescent lights flickered and I heard a faint tapping, like fingers drumming on the window pane. But when I looked, no one was there. I shrugged it off and went to leave, but the hallway stretched endlessly in front of me. The exit door at the far end seemed miles away. Shadows flickered just beyond my vision. Then, a whisper, "Don't leave." My heart slammed in my chest. I spun around. Nothing. Just the empty corridor and my own breath. That night, I dreamed of classrooms filled with ghostly students staring at me, mouths moving silently, begging for help. I woke up gasping, convinced it was just stress. But I wasn't ready for what was coming next. The next day, I tried to shake off the creeping unease from the night before. But as soon as I stepped into the halls of West Hollow High, I realized something was wrong. I noticed a door I'd never seen before, at the end of the hall near my locker. It was an old wooden door with peeling paint and a faded sign that read, Asterisk Room 13. Asterisk oddly, my class schedule didn't mention this room at all. Curious, I peeked inside during a free period. The room was empty, dusty, and frozen in time. Desks sat in perfect rows, covered in thick layers of dust, and a blackboard with faint chalk writing still visible. Welcome to night school. Night school? I hadn't signed up for any night classes. Was this some forgotten part of the school? I tried asking teachers and students, but no one acknowledged room 13 or night school. They acted as if it didn't exist. That evening, my phone buzzed with an anonymous message. Asterisk, find room 13. Don't trust what you see. Asterisk, my heart raced. Was this a prank or a warning? I couldn't stop thinking about it. Later, when the halls emptied, I slipped back to room 13. As soon as I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me and the lights flickered. The air grew cold, much colder than before. A voice echoed from the shadows. Welcome to the class that never ends. I spun around, but the room was empty. Yet the whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a cold wind. I felt invisible eyes piercing through the darkness. Suddenly, the chalkboard lit up with a glowing message. Asterisk, tonight the lesson begins. Stay if you dare. Asterisk, I wanted to run, but my legs felt glued to the floor. That night, I realized West Hollow High had secrets darker than any horror story. And room 13 was just the beginning. The second night after my discovery, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. My mind kept going back to room 13 and the strange message on my phone. Who was sending it and why? I decided to check my roommate, Emma. Maybe she knew something. But when I opened her dorm room, she wasn't there. Her bed was untouched, her things exactly where she'd left them the day before. I texted her, no reply. Called her, straight to voicemail. The next morning, I asked around campus. Emma? No one remembered her. Professors, friends, even the cafeteria staff acted like she was invisible, like she never existed. but I knew she was real. I went back to room 13, desperate for answers. The door creaked open, inviting me in like a dark mouth. Inside, the chalkboard was filled with names, a list of students. And at the bottom, in fresh chalk, was one name missing, Emma. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the whispers returned. I heard her voice calling my name from the shadows. Help me. I grabbed the door handle and tried to pull it open, but it wouldn't budge. The room grew colder and the walls seemed to close in. Panic clawed at my throat as the whispers turned into screams. Just as I felt myself slipping into the darkness, the door slammed open and I tumbled out into the hallway. Breathing hard, I realized room 13 wasn't just a forgotten classroom. It was a trap. And Emma, she was trapped somewhere I couldn't reach. I had to find her before I was next. The hallway outside room 13 felt different now, like the building itself was watching me, waiting. My heart hammered as I stared at the door I'd barely escaped from. It was just an ordinary wooden door, yet it felt like a gateway to something far worse. I didn't know what to do next. The disappearance of Emma was haunting me. No one else remembered her. How could a person just vanish, erased from everyone's memories? I went back to my dorm room, hoping to find something, anything, that could explain the strange messages on my phone. But as soon as I stepped inside, the air turned cold again, and the whispering started softly, almost like a breath in my ear. Help me. My phone buzzed. A new message appeared. Asterisk, find the hidden door. Asterisk. I looked around, searching for a door I hadn't seen before. That's when I noticed a faint outline on the far wall behind the bookshelf. A door frame, but no handle. I pushed the shelf aside. Behind it was a narrow door, old and worn, covered in strange symbols I didn't understand. I hesitated. This was no longer just about Emma or room 13. This was about something darker, something hidden right beneath the surface of the school. With a deep breath, I reached for the door and pulled it open. The darkness inside was thick, swallowing the dim hallway light. I stepped through, and suddenly, the world changed. The moment I stepped through the hidden door, the air grew colder, heavier, like the weight of 1,000 secrets pressing down on me. The dim hallway behind me vanished, swallowed by darkness. I was no longer in the familiar college building. Instead, I found myself in a narrow corridor, walls slick with damp, covered in strange, pulsing veins of deep crimson. The faint glow from the veins cast eerie shadows, making the corridor feel alive, watching me. My breath came out in short, visible puffs. Every step echoed like thunder in the silence. I reached into my pocket for my phone, but the screen was black. No signal, no light. Panic began to rise. I was trapped in a place that wasn't supposed to exist. The walls ahead twisted and warped as if bending reality itself. Suddenly, a distant sound pierced the silence. A low, guttural growl, faint but unmistakable. My heart stopped. Emma. I whispered, hoping it was her. The growl grew louder, closer, and I sprinted forward. At the end of the corridor, I saw a flickering light through a crack in a door. I pushed it open and froze. Inside was a room filled with mirrors, but the reflections weren't right. In each, I saw distorted versions of myself, eyes hollow, faces twisted in silent screams. One mirror shimmered, and behind it, I saw Emma, her face pale, her eyes pleading. Help me. Before I could reach through, the mirrors shattered, shards flying like daggers. The door slammed shut behind me. I was trapped. The shattered glass, crunching beneath my feet, felt like the last thread holding my sanity. I scrambled away from the mirrors, heart hammering like a wild drumbeat. The room, once silent, now whispered. Voices, so faint I couldn't catch the words, but their sorrow clung to the air like a thick fog. I pressed my back against the cold wall, trying to steady my breath, but it felt like the shadows themselves were breathing in, closing in. Suddenly, one of the mirrors began to ripple, like water disturbed by stone. A shadowy figure emerged, Emma, but her eyes were darker, hollow, and her voice carried a haunting echo. Don't trust the light, it's a trap, she warned before vanishing into the glass. I knew I couldn't stay. Panic clawed at me, but I forced myself to listen. If Emma was trapped here, maybe I could find her. Searching the room, I found a small door hidden behind a tattered curtain. It creaked open into a stairwell spiraling downward, the air thick with decay and distant whispers. With only the faint glow from the pulsating walls guiding me, I descended. Each step sank me deeper into the unknown, a world where time warped and fear was the only constant. Suddenly, a cold hand grabbed my ankle. I yanked away, heart nearly stopping. But when I looked, there was nothing, only darkness reaching for me. I wasn't alone. Something was here, waiting. The stairwell seemed endless, twisting and narrowing like a serpent's spine. My footsteps echoed, swallowed by thick silence. Every breath was sharp in the stale air, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something older, something rotten. I reached the bottom and found myself in a labyrinth of narrow corridors, walls lined with cracked tiles that whispered secrets in shadows. My heart pounded louder than ever, the walls closing in like they were alive, watching. I called out, "Emma, where are you?" My voice felt small, swallowed by the darkness. No reply. Ahead, faint flickering lights danced like will-o'-the-wisps, guiding me deeper. The lights were strange, not quite natural. They pulsed rhythmically, like a heartbeat, matching my own in unsettling synchrony. I followed them, but with every turn, the corridors seemed to shift. I'd swear the same door appeared again and again, mocking me. I ran my fingers along the wall, cold, slick, and suddenly it felt alive. A low hum grew beneath my feet, and the lights dimmed. Panic surged. The air thickened, making it harder to breathe. My skin prickled, like invisible eyes were drilling into me. Then I heard it, a faint melody, haunting and broken, barely human. It drew me forward, deeper into the maze. I rounded a corner and saw a room bathed in crimson light. Inside, scattered papers with scribbled symbols littered the floor. At the center, a cracked mirror reflected my face, but behind me, a shadow lingered. I spun around, nothing but darkness. But the feeling didn't leave. I was being watched, trapped, and Emma was somewhere ahead or behind in this living nightmare. The room with the cracked mirror felt like a trap, but I couldn't leave. Not yet. Something about that reflection. It wasn't just me staring back. There was something else, a flicker of movement, a shadow lurking just behind my shoulder. I forced myself to calm down, taking slow, deep breaths. The papers on the floor were strange, symbols I couldn't understand, like a language meant to twist your mind. I picked one up, the ink still wet, the words swirling and shifting as if alive. A whisper brushed past my ear, so soft I thought I imagined it. Then again, "Find her," the voice said, low and trembling. It wasn't Emma's voice. It was colder, older. I stepped back, heart hammering, and suddenly the door slammed shut behind me. The light flickered and the shadows lengthened, crawling like fingers over the walls. I was trapped. I pulled my phone from my pocket, hoping for a signal, but it was dead. No service, no light, only the faint red glow from the cracked bulbs overhead. Then the whispering began all around me, voices overlapping, echoing from every corner. "She's not what she seems. You don't belong here. Leave while you can." The words blurred together into a maddening chorus. Panic rose, choking me. I had to keep moving. I shoved open the door, it creaked but gave way. I ran down the twisting hallway, following the fading heartbeat lights. Somewhere in this maze, Emma was trapped. Or worse, she might not be herself anymore. And the deeper I went, the more I realized this wasn't just a disappearing roommate. This place was alive, and it was hungry. My footsteps echoed hollowly down the corridor, each step swallowed by the oppressive silence that had settled over this place. The air grew colder with every passing moment, and a creeping dread settled deep in my chest. I could still hear those whispers, faint, elusive, but always just out of reach. I clutched the tattered note I'd found in the cracked mirror room, the strange symbols now seeming less like random scribbles and more like a warning. "Find her," it said. But who was her? Emma? Or someone else. Suddenly, a faint sound drifted to me, a soft, almost melodic humming. It was faint but unmistakable. Emma's favorite lullaby, the one she sang when she was stressed. My heart pounded. She was close. I followed the sound into a room bathed in flickering blue light. The walls were covered with old photographs, hundreds of them, all blurred and faded. At the center stood Emma, or rather, a ghostly apparition of her. Her eyes were hollow, but the smile was there, twisted and wrong. Emma, I whispered, my voice cracking. She turned slowly, her face melting into shadows. The humming stopped abruptly. The air thickened. I felt hands brush my skin, cold and weightless. I tried to move, but my legs were rooted. A voice, this time unmistakably Emma's, whispered from the shadows. You shouldn't have come here. Fear rooted me in place as the room seemed to dissolve into darkness. Then a single phrase echoed, chilling and clear. Find the truth before it finds you. The darkness clung to me like a second skin, suffocating and relentless. My breath came in ragged gasps as I struggled to keep my footing. Emma's voice echoed in my mind, her warning carved into my soul. Asterisk, find the truth before it finds you. Asterisk, I forced myself forward, stepping into the void that replaced the room. Slowly, the shadows parted, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward into the unknown. Each step groaned under my weight, the air growing colder, heavier. At the bottom, a door, ancient and cracked, loomed. I hesitated, then pushed it open. Inside was a small chamber filled with dusty journals, yellowed with age. I began reading, and the story unfolded. Emma wasn't just a roommate who vanished. She was trapped between worlds, caught in a dimension parallel to ours, pulled in by a malevolent force that fed on forgotten memories. The journal spoke of a ritual, a way to bring her back. But it came with a price. The portal demanded a sacrifice, someone to take Emma's place. My heart thundered. I was standing at the edge of something terrifying, and I was the only one who could cross that boundary. Then the whispers returned, louder now, filling the room with a dreadful chorus. Choose, or be lost forever. I looked at the door, the path back to reality. But I knew, deep down, that the line between worlds had already blurred. The question wasn't if I could save Emma, but if I could save myself. So that's what happened. And honestly, I still don't know if any of it was real or if my mind just snapped somewhere along the way. But every time I close my eyes, I hear those same whispers, feel that same cold breath on the back of my neck. I didn't want to believe it. I tried to explain it away. Dreams, stress, anything. But deep down, I know something followed me back. If you're still watching, thanks for sticking with me through that nightmare. I've got plenty more stories like this, and some even darker ones I haven't told yet. So if you're into mystery, suspense, and the kind of horror that keeps you up at night, hit that subscribe button and join me again next time. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that actually happen. See you in the next one. I candle.